What's up developers, it's Dari here from Code with Dari, and welcome back to a new video where we're going to cover the directory structure of Laravel projects. Now I have opened my project inside PHP Storm, and you might get overwhelmed right here, but don't worry about it, because I was too when I started. Laravel adds so many folders and files, so let's go over them one by one. Laravel is a full-featured web application framework, and it follows the MVC architecture. So model, view, controller. It separates logic, presentation, and data. The structure helps you to keep your application clean, organized, and scalable by giving you best practices right from the start. So let's start at the top of our structure, where we got our app directory, which in my opinion is the most important directory, since this is the place where most of your core logic lives. Your model, your services, your jobs, events, and most importantly, your controllers. The first subdirectory right here is called the HTTP directory, which contains everything related to handling incoming HTTP requests and sending responses. Think about it as the place where you store your controllers, middlewares, and request classes for validating and authorizing user input. For now, the most important subdirectory here is the controllers directory, where you will write your controller classes, the files that handle incoming requests, pull in data from your model, and return responses, like rendering a view or sending JSON. The auth and setting subdirectories have been added because we installed the React starter kit, but if we open any file right here, you'll see that every class, so the authenticated session controller class in this example, extends the default controller class. Now we can open it by opening the controller.php class inside the controllers directory, or we can just click through on it right here. And this file acts as the foundation or common parent class for all other controllers in your application. It allows you to define shared logic, traits, or helper methods that you want all your controllers to inherit. Once you have created a controller, it always has to extend this base class. Now next up, we have the models subdirectory, where all your models will be stored. By default, Laravel ships with a user.php model class. This is a model which represents the users table in your database. Models are used to interact with the database, define relationships, and handle data logic. A lot of people asking you why they use their model by default. Laravel assumes that most applications will need user accounts, whether you're building a blog, a to-do app, a store, or even a simple dashboard. So instead of making you create everything from scratch, Laravel gives you a ready-made starting point for user management. You will also see a directory called providers, where you will find your service providers, which are classes that Laravel uses to bootstrap different parts of your application. So let's say registering events, setting up bindings, and running startup code. By default, it ships with one provider, which is named the app service provider. You can add code here as well, and we will definitely do that later in the course inside the boot method. So this will always be triggered when you define and register a new provider. Personally, I would always recommend defining global settings or package configurations right here. Now, next up is the bootstrap directory in the root of our project, which is where Laravel gets initialized, or basically bootstrapped, where the application starts. It ships with two files out of the box, app.php and providers.php. The app.php file is the file where Laravel creates the main application instance, kind of turning on the engine before the application starts driving. Now the cache subdirectory right here stores things like compiled configuration files and routes, which help speed up your application. You usually don't touch these files directly, since Laravel generates them when you run commands, which we will do in a later video. Now the third directory is a very important one, which is the config directory. The config directory holds tons of configuration files for things like the database, mailing, sessions, logging, and so on. We won't dive too deep into this right now because we'll revisit this later when we actually set up those features. Another very important one, which I will probably say with all of them, is the database directory. This is where you define your database structure and sample data. Now, Laravel works a little bit different than your regular PHP projects. Laravel has something which is called a migration. Migrations are like version controls for your database. Just like Git tracks changes to your code, migrations track changes to your database structure, like adding tables, columns, indexes, and so on. So you're literally going to write your database in PHP code. Once you wrote all of them, you can use Laravel's predefined command to run your migrations, basically creating your database. Well, let's look at an example. Instead of opening phpMyAdmin and clicking around to create a post table, you write migration files that says create a table called post, add a title column, add a content column, and so on. And then you simply run your migration command. Now that we know what migrations are, let's go up and down for the factories and seeders directories. Seeders are used to populate your tables with sample data or basically test data. So let's say you're building a blog, you might use a seeder to insert 50 posts. Factories generate fake data for your models. They're typically used with seeders to fill your database with dummy data, which is also great for testing. Now, next to the database subdirectory, we have the nodes_modules directory, and I won't talk about that for too long, but in Laravel projects, the node modules directory is where Node.js packages are stored after you run the npm install command. And when we install our Laravel application, we set that they have to run it once for us. But this is something I will cover later on when we work on the front end of our application, when we're going to install packages. So let's continue on for now. Now, most likely the public directory will be the most familiar one to you, since it's the entry point for your Laravel application. It's the only directory that's exposed to the web. When someone visits your website, the index.php file that we have right here is the file that handles the request. It loads Laravel, it will bootstrap everything, and then it passes the request to your routes and your controller. If you're using Apache, the .ht access file tells the server to redirect all requests to index.php so that Laravel can handle them. We also got the resources directory, which kind of works together with the public directory. And this is actually one where we will work quite a lot, especially if you're building anything with a front end or custom HTML views. This directory contains everything related to the user interface of your application. So while the app directory handles logic, the resources directory handles what the user actually sees. Inside the views directory right here, you'll see an app.blade.php file, which is a Blade template. These are HTML files with embedded PHP using Laravel's templating engine. We won't be working with Blade templates since we're going to use React, so I won't waste too much time on it. Both the JS and CSS contain raw files that get compiled later using Fight. You write in resources and Laravel compiles everything into the public directory. One thing for you to remember is that the difference between resource and public is resource is where you write your code and public is where the final results goes to. The next directory is the routes directory. This directory right here contains all of your application routes, basically the URLs that users can visit. It ships with 4 files. The auth and settings are added because we have installed the React Starters Kit, but by default it has console.php and web.php. And web.php, in my opinion, is the most important one, since this file contains routes for your web interface, like your homepage right here, your dashboard, and your settings and authentication routes. The second one is the console.php file, right here. And this is where you can define custom artisan commands. We'll probably touch this later if we build a CLI tool. Now, then we have the storage directory. The storage directory is where Laravel stores everything that needs to persist between requests, logs, cached views, sessions, and uploaded files, and so on. It ships with 3 default subdirectories, which is app, framework, and logs. In logs, you will basically find all errors and debugging information that your application writes. The app is where you can store user uploaded files like profile pictures. And finally, the framework, which you most likely will never touch, since this is used internally by Laravel for caching and testing. Now, tests speaks for itself as well. This is the test directory where you write automated tests for your application. Another very important one is actually the vendor directory. And this directory is huge, and not specifically by size, but in importance. The vendor directory is where Composer installs all of your PHP dependencies, including the framework itself. When, for example, you install the Composer install command, Composer reads everything you have to find inside your composer.json file in the root, so right here, downloads everything you need and puts it inside the vendor directory. You'll find packages like Symfony, Carbon, Doctrine, and of course Laravel core code, all living in vendor. Now you might be tempted to open one of these files and change something. Maybe you'll find a bug or you want to tweak a feature in a package. But let me be super clear. You should never directly edit anything inside your vendor directory. Every time you or someone else runs a command like composer install or composer update, Composer will delete and completely rebuild the vendor directory based on what's in your composer.log file. We could even test it out. Let's just delete the vendor directory. Let's navigate to the terminal. Let's run composer install. Give it a moment. It has been installed. Navigate to PHP Storm. You'll see that it has generated a new vendor directory for us. Alright, now that we have covered all directories, let's have a look at some of these files. I'll cover them quickly since we will be using them more during this course. We first have the .env and .env.example files. These files store environment-specific settings like your database connection or application name. The .env.example file is basically a sample file of the .env file. The .env file is the real one that your app reads at runtime. I actually skipped the .editor config. This is a file that maintains consistent coding styles across different editors. The Git attributes tells Git how to handle things like line endings, binary files, and export settings. In the Git ignore, you define which files you want to exclude from Git. We have the artisan file, and this is actually a very important file in your project, because it's a command line that gives you access to all sorts of Laravel specific commands, like generating code, running migrations, clearing cache, and way more. We could actually test it out. Let's navigate to the terminal. And let's run the php artisan about command. So you might be wondering what just happened. PHP runs the PHP interpreter. Artisan right here is the CLI tool, and about is the command we're calling, and it gives you a summary of your application setup. So basically our application name, our application version, our PHP version, composer version, and so on. So if we navigate back to PHP Storm, you'll see that we have our components.json, which is actually our UI library. Two other important ones are composer.json and composer.log. These files define and lock your PHP dependencies. Composer.json can be seen like a manifest. It basically says, well, listen, I need these packages and a couple others right here. And then the composer.log file ensures everything uses the exact same version that is needed. We have the package.json and package.log, which basically has the same idea as the composer.json and the composer.log, but for your front-end tools. The PHP unit.xml file configures PHP unit, the testing framework that Laravel uses. The ts config.json is the TypeScript. And then we have the vite.config.ts, which is Laravel's modern tool for compiling assets like CSS and JavaScript. If you look around and find older resources related to Laravel, you'll probably see something like Laravel Mix popping up, but Vite basically replaces Laravel Mix in newer versions. I know that I skipped a couple, but I just don't think they're super necessary for you to know. Now, this was it for now. I want to wrap up this video where we covered all directories and files in a default Laravel application. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notification and follow along, because we're going to go deeper and deeper, but in a simple, beginner-friendly way. Thank you for watching this video. In the next video, we're going to have a look at Laravel configurations.